Hello, my friends. I wanted to jump on and tell you that enrollment is now open for our Unicorn Society group. For those of you who don't know what Unicorn Society is, it's our Business for Unicorns coaching group for training gym owners. It's an amazing group of humans. I'm obsessed with these folks. So many people who have been in Unicorn Society have been in it for many years now. So that just tells you how much people enjoy being in the group. But briefly, what you get in the group is you get pretty much unlimited access to me and Mark and Pete Dupuis as your coaches, up to 90 minutes per month of one-on-one time with us, plus kind of unlimited emails, texts, plus a ton of other things. I could spend 10 minutes talking about it, but we do retreats. Every quarter, we have a 2-day retreat that you can attend in person or remotely. You get access to Unicorn University, all of our online courses. We have a content library with endless tools and tips and scripts and templates. You also have Zoom meetings with a group, our cohort from Unicorn Society that you talk to every other week or every week if you want to. And so the whole thing is that this group is meant to be your support system, your executive board of directors to help you both personally and professionally make decisions and navigate running a brick and mortar training gym. And so if that sounds fun for you, if you think you could use some extra support, some extra attention, if you want to stop feeling kind of alone running your business and want a little camaraderie, a little friendship, some peers to work with and collaborate with, that's what we do in Unicorn Society. That's what we do. It's the number one reason people join this group is because they want to have people to work with. It could be kind of lonely at the top. It's a cliche, but it's true. As a manager and leader of your organization, you often don't have people you can confide in and collaborate with. And so Unicorn Society provides a bunch of thought partners in the form of me, Mark, and Pete, and thought partners in the form of all the rest of your members who are available to you to serve as a sounding board and a support system. So the reason I'm coming on to tell you is right now in the podcast is that early bird enrollment is open right now, and it ends November 7th. So if you enroll before November 7th, you get a lot of cool things. You save, I think, $1,800 on your dues for the year. So that's huge savings. We really marked down early bird pricing. You also get a free month. You get to start early. So if you enroll by November 7th, you get to start in December, a whole month before the year begins. Everyone who rolls past the early bird period won't start until January. So starting in December means you really get to hit the ground running. So anyway, go to our website, businessforunicorns.com, click the link below, and come join us. There's an application process, of course, to make sure that we're the right fit for you and you're the right fit for us. But go apply. Even if you're curious about it, there's no commitment in the application process. So just go do it so we can have a conversation. If you have any questions, just let us know. Email me, michael@businessforunicorns.com or mark@businessforunicorns.com. Thanks for letting me share this information. I hope you all join me. It's a blast and we have a ton of fun together. So don't be shy. Let's do this. Bye. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. And it's a real fucking treat today because I got Fisher and Pete here today. And we've never done this before. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining me, gents. How are you doing today?
I'm happy to be here. This was a last minute invite. Spiced up my afternoon.
We're just keeping each other on our toes. So thanks for doing it. We thought we'd do a quick episode here. And one of the topics that we thought would be fun to share with y'all, we can just kind of go around robin here and share our thoughts, are common mistakes, common things we see gym owners mess up. As you all know, that we spend a lot of time talking to our Unicorn Society members, other people in the industry, doing lots of reading, and you all just came back from a conference, and so we get to observe a lot about choices that people are making out there who run brick and mortar gyms, training studios, and we see a lot of people doing good things. And we see a lot of people making some terrible, pretty obvious mistakes. And so let's just share some of them. Maybe we'll just kind of go one at a time. And I'll start with you, Pete. Just want to share one common mistake you see people make.
Well, I think of this as kind of like the frequently asked questions podcast, where I'm encountering the same kind of consistent questions. And as of late, it's been a hiring question. And so as I think we collectively, the three of us, have found, there's unbelievable amount of opportunity out there for us gym owners right now, the ones who are still standing.
Yep.
And that kind of an outcome of that is that we have hiring needs. maybe not every single gym, but more often than not, Unicorn Society members are coming to me and saying, I need to make a hire. Can you help me with interview tips? How do I get more out of Indeed? And I have a track record, or I find myself often saying to members of Unicorn Society that I don't like giving shortcut answers. So my answers are often long game answers.
Mm-hmm.
And the most common mistake I'm seeing on this front is that gym owners are looking at hiring purely from a reactive standpoint. Very few people are proactively laying the groundwork toward their next hire that they don't need yet. And I mean, you and Mark might be the only people I've ever known who are doing kind of informational interviews for jobs that don't exist. And you might not even be doing that right now, but you have in the past. And I have just found that us gym owners come from a point of little to no leverage when we urgently need to make a hire, and we are spamming our networks, making announcements. And so that's why I have a standing meeting each week with my kind of right-hand man, number two in command in my office, where I say, you know, if our guy Josh left tomorrow, who are we hiring? And we reevaluate our list of current and former interns. We talk through the pros and cons. I actually ask just about every single week in our all hands meeting, who's our best intern right now and what are we doing to make them more employable? And we revisit it. And usually a couple weeks into an internship, that becomes, I know who the best is. And I say, hey, so-and-so continues to be our best intern. What did we do to make that person even better in the last 7 days? And what are we doing for the next 7? Because someday I'd like to hire them, even though I don't currently have a job for that purpose. So the short answer to your question, what's a common mistake? The mistake is waiting until you need to make a hire to thinking about making hires. So build your network, talk to people like you guys, just constantly be expressing an interest with interviewing, I guess, interacting with competent fitness professionals, and just staying top of mind with a lot of people that you know, like, and respect. Because when it comes time to make that hire, it's just so much better to say, I have a role coming down the pipe, than it is to say, I'm working 55 hours a week and I desperately need someone to pick up the 5 a.m. group on Thursdays. Like, that's just an exhausting place, and it's a recipe for bad hiring practices.
Yeah. Well said, Pete. I think that's a really, really great one. So don't wait till last minute to hire someone. The best time to hire someone or start the process of getting to find people to hire is when you don't need one. And so either, like Pete, have an internship program, or, you know, something Fisher and I have done. And right now we have people who train with us for a little while as a ninja. And I think, you know, the phrase I would use is just start flirting early. Just flirt all the time. So when it comes time to really date or get married, that, like, you already have some suitors, some people who are interested. So yeah,
good analogy.
One, yeah, good one, Pete. Fisher, what about you? What's a common mistake you see?
Many things. There are many common mistakes, but one that I will give you that I see quite often, which is hilariously cliche, and I feel like this is something that, interestingly enough, I don't know, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but it feels like this is maybe one of the most common conversations in the Unicorn Society, is not charging enough. People are not charging enough. And it is literally probably a week does not go by in the Unicorn side that somebody is not getting experience shares for how to raise the prices. Everyone tends to be very nervous about that. In a moment, I'll give you some things to consider if you do choose to raise your prices, which you probably will need to. But to go to the core of the issue, I think the first question is, well, how do you know if your prices are high enough? And ultimately, what you need to do is really back out from the constraints of your space based on how many individuals you can reasonably service and have members of your gym, realistically speaking. Does that allow you to make enough income that your margins work, which is to say you're able to keep whatever your target amount you want to keep as a percentage of revenue while still being able to pay your bills, pay for your team, pay for your rent, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes, a lot of people are in the industry because they have amazing, wonderful hearts. They are oftentimes just barely getting by, kind of making an income. And I think the first step here is to get clear on, if your business was thriving, right? Backing it out in a realistic, reasonable world, if your business was thriving, how much income would you be making? And then figuring out from the revenue, how many people do you need to serve at what average revenue per member? And what most people discover is they can't get to where they really want to be unless they make some changes in their rates. And I'll just share a few points briefly. If that's you listening to this and you're having a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, I first want to normalize you and say you're not alone. Most people run into this issue because most people open up their facility, they kind of look at what other people are charging, and then they charge 10% less or 5% less or whatever it is. But ultimately, you need to back out from the things that are going to make sense for your business and your model. Now, if you decide you need to increase your rates, I think there's two different playbooks. I think playbook one is actually not a big deal. If you're doing a reasonable cost of living increase and you're in the, let's call it the arbitrary, I'll say the 3 to 5% range, that's not actually a big deal. That shouldn't require a lot of hand wringing. It will, because you're a person, so you might be a scaredy cat. But that type of communication is not that big of a deal. Any client that is a customer of any other business knows prices go up. And frankly, you never had a better reason to raise your prices, because you can correctly attribute some of this to the fact that we're still in these strange pandemic times. So likely your costs have increased. And then beyond the pandemic itself, of course, there is the increase inflation, the cost of living, just all the prices of everything are going up right now, right? So any reasonable client and customer you have is going to understand that. And in practice, a 3 to 5% increase, if you're charging $200, even $300, we're looking at maybe $15, maybe $20 per month per client. Now, admittedly, if you're in a smaller market, I'm not saying that's no money at all. I just want to make the point that if it's that type of cost increase, your playbook is pretty simple, which is send out a communication, maybe post in your Facebook group, maybe you do an email as well. You want to cut to the point, let people know, dear valued client, I'm writing to let you know that as of X date, prices are going up, yoop-a-doop-a-doo. You can acknowledge briefly, we know none of us like this. We wish prices would never go up. You can then provide a list of, but here are some of the things that we are able to provide by continuing to keep our rates competitive. Things such as ... investing in the team, investing in the facility, et cetera, whatever you want to put in there. And then you close it up, you tie it in bow. Thank you so much for choosing to support us. We look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Signed your name. And then if you like, you can do a PS at the end that acknowledge is if this price increase, although modest, is onerous for any of our beloved customers, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I don't want you choosing between maintaining a home and continuing to train with us. So that's probably all that needs to be. And if you want, it's not a bad best practice to also send out a physical mailing. And if your clientele is small enough, you could give people some phone calls. I think the other scenario I'll quickly outlay is if you're making a correction, and this is when you need to increase your prices 10%, 15%, 20%, because sometimes you do want to cut once, cut deep, as the saying goes. And in that type of situation, I think it's a little bit less casual Fridays at the office, because I think the overall structure will remain the same. But appropriately, I believe there's room for some mea culpa where you acknowledge that this is your fault. This is your fault. You're a good person. I like you. Your clients like you, but you made a mistake. This is your fault. You now have to change an untenable situation that you've created through your lack of understanding of the way things work. But you're going to rip off this Band-Aid. And what you will find is, even in this situation, the vast majority of people will understand, because if you need to increase your rates that meaningfully, it is very likely that you are actually underpriced for your market anyway, ideally for their value you're providing. And if you're not providing sufficient value, that is a separate conversation about fulfillment, customer experience, onboarding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I will highlight that the structure will largely be the same. I think the one difference is you should acknowledge that this is reflective of you having made mistakes when you set up the original pricing structure for your business. To the extent that you think is appropriate to acknowledge that and take responsibility for that, you should. And this might be a situation where now we probably, it's more important perhaps to send out a physical mailing of some kind, and depending on the size of your clientele base, get on the phone with individuals, or at the very least, if you have a very big facility, provide a forum for individuals to have conversations with you. Because in my experience, you will get more gnashing of the teeth when the price increases this big, but in practice, you'll never lose as many clients as you think you're going to. And the people that are gnashing teeth mostly just want a safe space to vent and tell you they're frustrated, because the reality is, if they get very upset, that means they really value your service. And they might be in a situation where if you need to do a $50 increase in many markets, that would be meaningful. And if people are very upset with you, it's because they want to stay a member and because they care. And oftentimes, as the case with customer service, what they most need is to be heard. So that is my quick little mini TED talk on why you should probably raise your rates.
Yeah, that was a great one, Fisher. And it's true. It's a conversation we're all having all the time with lots of folks, just helping them overcome any hesitation or resistance they have to raising their rates, because it can feel scary. I've heard multiple times, like, I just can't raise my rates. I'll lose everyone. Everyone will leave, which we know is not often the case, but you might lose some people. And that's almost always going to be worth it in the long run if you're consistently raising your rates to be competitive. So I think it's a great one to have on this list. Yeah.
We
I
have
think
a
it's also
great template for this now, by the way. I think that's going to be our most used template.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh,
Sorry, go
I
ahead,
don't
Pete.
know if I've seen it. Send it my way, please.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll make a note.
But I was going to say, if for our listeners, and I kind of asked this in a rhetorical way, but have you ever tried to fire a client? It's kind of actually hard. I've found that when I say to someone like, we're not a fit, and I'm going to help you find another gym. Here's a list, and I actually know the owners at this place, and this place. I want to make an intro. I think it's a better fit for you. Those people won't leave. And so I think that a lot of that actually carries forward when you're talking about pricing increases. The people who complain want to feel heard, but very, very rarely do those people pack up their stuff and go. Because when you say, hey, I get it, this is cost prohibitive, let's find you something more affordable.
Yeah.
I have a couple ideas. Would you like to talk about it? The answer is always a deflection. No, never mind. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then it's done. What's done is done. But once people realize you're at peace with the idea, I could lose some clients with this move, but it's the right move for my business and it puts me in a better position to take care of our community. Those people continue to want to be part of that community that you're describing. So it's so much less likely that things are going to blow up in your face than you think. And we say this to Unicorn Society members all the time. None of them believe us, and then it happens. and
it's
they're all
always fine every time.
Yeah,
it's always
100% success rate lately. So.
Yeah, and they all tell each other, and they still don't even believe each other until they actually do it. Yeah, how many people post in the Facebook group that like, I did a rate change and only one person complained? And it's like, yes, you're the 15th person who did it this last one,
and that one person is still cutting you checks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I know we have a few minutes. I'll share one. Common mistake that I think is one of the most common I wind up talking to people about is that, and it's a very simple one, so it won't take long to talk about either the problem or the solution, which is not enough people write down what their expectations are of their staff. They have all of these implicit expectations, all these ways they want their staff to behave, and none of it is friggin' written down anywhere. And then they're confused about why people aren't doing all the things they want them to do because they told them once. they mentioned it once in a conversation, or they told them once when they hired them or onboarded them. And then weeks or months or even years later, they're surprised that they aren't clear about what's expected. And so, and I think it's a normal thing to do because I think many entrepreneurs, like the three of us, often are action takers. We're doers. We don't need to be prompted very often to go take action. We have a strong action bias. And we don't always hire people that have a strong action bias. They need clarity. They need directions. They need accountability. And if you hire the right people, they want to know how to win. They want to know how to succeed in the job. And so they need tools and resources to understand what winning looks like. And so I think, that the thing I recommend everyone start doing, if that's you, is just start writing stuff down. And really doesn't have to be complicated, but all the expectations for someone's role should all be in one place where they can find it. It can be a series of Google Docs. You can use an app. It can be in a single printed notebook somewhere where they can find it. But what's expected of them in terms of how they show up, when they show up, what their job includes, what it doesn't include, how they get paid, all of those things should be somewhere where people can find it and understand it. And then that'll even get to the next step. The next step would be then regularly having conversations with them to test them and hold them accountable to doing those things. But don't even worry about that yet. At least start writing it down so that when people are missing your expectations, when your team is not performing in the way you want them to, at the very least, you can say, okay, let's go review the expectations that are written down. Let's review this checklist. Let's review this list of values. Let's review these things I need you to do in every training session. Let's review this script or these talking points. But if it's not written down, you just got this he said, she said nonsense. Well, I don't remember that. Well, I said it. And it's like, well, that just goes in circles. And so I'd say it's very simple. If you struggle to get your team to do what you want them to do, you might not be writing it down enough. And if you have a problem with your people, it's often a problem with the process. So write down what the processes are. We often talk of these as about SOPs or standard operating procedures. That's the fancy version of what I'm talking about. But if you can at least start with just writing some shit down that you want people to do, it'll almost always starts to help. It almost always starts to help. Anything
This
you all
is
would.
one of my favorite things about how you guys have structured Unicorn Society. I've got this fallback coaching tool that can make every single call productive, because if I come to the table for a call and I say, what is there anything in particular you'd like to touch on today? And people are kind of vague or ambiguous. I say, all right, great. We're diving into your Q1 goals. And I
Yep.
just pull up the list of stuff that they wrote down and they committed to. And it's a string of done or not done. And every call becomes a productive call. And
Yep.
so it's funny. I have that reinforced every week when I take calls with the Unicorn Society, and then I don't practice it in my own business as much as I should. So I need to go out and execute on the home front. But I do appreciate the value of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said,
Yeah,
Pete.
I would offer one other small micro version of this along the same ballpark, and to some extent even simpler than writing down SOPs, which I know can be intimidating, even though you should do that, is if you're meeting with people on a regular basis, having a shared meeting agenda document where you catalog issues of things to discuss, and importantly, you catalog the to-dos. So it's written out clearly who's going to do what by what time. So you never have the uncomfortable position I had oftentimes in the first maybe 6 to 7 years of my career, where we would get together back for the meeting and realize that we weren't even on the same page about who was supposed to do what and by when. So having a shared document where you're writing that down, I found to be a very valuable tool.
Yeah, that's great. And often it's that by when part that people forget. Even if you did remember what you were going to do, there wasn't an established timeline for when it was all going to get done. And so that's, I think that's a really good point. All right, friends, we said we were keeping a short one today, so we only had time for one round robin, but we should do this again sometime. I think this is probably a good series to bring up because it touches a lot of different points and helps us kind of reflect what we've been seeing in our conversation. So thanks for doing it, gents. Go enjoy the rest of your week, and let's do it again soon.
We shall.
Talk soon, guys.
Bye. Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.